My dear viewers, this is a new episode of our weekly program, Newsroom Live with Amal Mukhtar. I have the pleasure to be with you until 11 p.m. today, and we are going to go through the local and international and regional issues on top of which, of course, is the Gaza Strip and the Lebanon conflict. And a short break, and I'm going to be back with you. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have met on Tuesday with the heads of major international companies operating in the industrial sector, participating in the third edition of the annual International Forum and Exhibition of Industries, which is held in Egypt during the period from the 25th until the 27th of November. During the meeting, President al-Sisi expressed Egypt's keenness to make every effort to simulate the industrial sector with the aim of localizing industry, encouraging the use of technology in industry, as well as enhancing small and medium-sized industries and increasing the competitiveness. The head of state have referred to the steps taken by Egypt to improve the investment climate, remove obstacles facing investors, and develop the business environment. He also said the government would continue to make necessary decisions and measures to remove obstacles facing investors, referring to the presence of multiple sectors among Egypt's priorities in efforts to localize industry. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have issued a presidential decree reshuffling the former of the Supreme Council of Media Regulation for 4-year term, presided by Khalid Abdelaziz. The President also decreed a new lineup of the National Media Authority for a 4-year term to be headed by Ahmed al-Mislimani. President al-Sisi also issued a decree introducing a change up to the National Press Authority, which is to be chaired by Abdel Sadiq al-Shorbagy. Foreign Minister Badr Abdel-Ati said there is urgent need for an immediate ceasefire and also the entry of humanitarian aid to Gaza Strip without obstacles by the Israeli side. Abdel-Ati was speaking during the G7 meeting in Italy. The meeting was held to discuss developments in Gaza and Lebanon and means of ending the escalation in the Middle East. In his speech, Abdel-Ati expressed rejection to attempts aimed at the relocation of Gazans, any curb of the work of UN agencies in the Strip, especially the UNRWA. He also warned against the dangerous situation in West Bank due to the continued Israeli settlement policies. Abdel-Ati also highlighted the latest developments in Lebanon, stressing the necessity of reaching an immediate ceasefire, the urgent need for the Israelis to stop violating Lebanon's sovereignty, and the importance of implementing the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Abdel-Ati also on the Sudan side, Foreign Minister Abdel-Ati have touched on the situation in Sudan in a meeting held on the sidelines of the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting. He said Cairo is deeply keen on achieving stability in Sudan for the Sudanese people to be able to build the nation and achieve their aspirations. He also stressed the necessity of pressing and preserving the Sudan state institutions and to respect for the unity and sovereignty of the country. He also said that donor countries must commit to their promises for humanitarian assistance to Sudan, which he said is facing a deficit of nearly 75% of its needs. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Expatriate Affairs, Medhat, on Monday have attended the 23rd extraordinary meeting of the African Union Extraordinary Council. The ministerial meeting have tackled a number of reports pertaining the African Union's action and its participation in the group of 20 meetings. The top diplomat have pointed out that the AU's membership in the G20 is an important achievement for the commitment and reiterated Egypt's readiness to provide all sorts of support to ensure the success of the South Africa in its group's presidency. While Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said on Tuesday that 22 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes and shelling on the Palestinian territory. An Israeli airstrike have killed at least 11 Palestinians at a school sheltering displaced families in Gaza City, medics said on Tuesday. Earlier, at least 11 people were killed in nighttime Israeli airstrikes and artillery shelling across the Palestinian-occupied territory. The Gaza Civil Defense Agency said 7 people were killed and several others were wounded in an air strike on a residential building in the northern city of Jabalia. Another person was killed in a strike on a house in nearby Beit Lahia. Separately, 2 people were killed by artillery shelling on Nusayrat camp in central Gaza, and in the southern city of Rafah, an air strike killed 1 and injured several others. Israeli genocide war on Gaza has killed 44,235 people in Gaza. Well, Lebanon have reported 3 deaths on Tuesday in Israeli strikes on a Beirut building housing displaced people, with state media describing a bout of fire around Hezbollah's South Beirut stronghold. The heavy bombardment have come as Israel have weighed a proposed ceasefire in its 2-month war with Hezbollah following nearly a year of limited cross-border clashes linked to the Gaza war. The details in the following report. Israel's Channel 12 television reported on Tuesday that Israel have agreed on a ceasefire with Lebanon, clearing the way for an end to the conflict between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah that has killed thousands of people since it was ignited by the Gaza war last year. The accord was expected to take effect on Wednesday. The Channel 12 reported followed a meeting of Israel's Security Cabinet under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened to discuss a ceasefire deal. Israel's approval to the deal would pave the way for a ceasefire declaration by U.S. President Joe Biden and French President Emmanuel Macron, according to 4 senior Lebanese sources. Despite the diplomatic breakthrough, hostilities raged as Israel dramatically ramped up its campaign of airstrikes in Beirut and other parts of Lebanon. However, there was no indication that a truce in Lebanon would hasten a ceasefire and hostage release deal in devastated Gaza, where Israel is continuing its genocide war against Palestinians. The Lebanon ceasefire agreement requires Israeli troops to withdraw from South Lebanon and Lebanon's army to deploy in the region. Hezbollah would end its armed presence along the border south of the Litani River. Lebanese Foreign Minister Abdallah Bourhabib said that Lebanese army would be ready to have at least 5,000 troops deployed in southern Lebanon as Israeli troops withdrew, and that the United States could play a role in rebuilding infrastructure destroyed by the Israeli strikes. Welcome back. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said on Tuesday Israel has no reason to turn down a proposed ceasefire with Lebanon brokered by France and the United States. Meanwhile, Israel's Channel 12 television reported on Tuesday that Israel has agreed a ceasefire with Lebanon, clearing the way for an end to a conflict between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah that has killed thousands of people since it was initiated by the Gaza war last year. The accord was expected to take effect on Wednesday. The Channel 12 report followed a meeting of Israel's Security Cabinet under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened to discuss a ceasefire deal. Israeli approval of the deal would pave the way for a ceasefire declaration by U.S. President Joe Biden and French President Emmanuel Macron, according to 4 senior Lebanese sources. The group of 7 democracies are seeking a common position on the arrest warrant of Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued last week by the International Criminal Court. More details are the following.
Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said he was optimistic for a cessation of hostilities in Lebanon as Middle East tensions dominated a G7 meeting in Rome. The group of 7 foreign ministers also discussed the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Hamas military chief. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken attended the talks in the towns of Fiuggi and Anagni with ministers from Britain, Canada, Germany, France, Japan and host Italy. Tajani hinted, however, at difficulties in reaching an unambiguous position on the International Criminal Court decision. He said that the G7 ministers were working to find an agreement on wording regarding the ICC decision in their final statement. The G7 talks come amid political uncertainty following Donald Trump's U.S. election win. On Tuesday, discussions turned to Ukraine in the presence of the war-torn country's foreign minister. Officials discussed ways to continue supporting Kiev, prospects for peace and initiatives for future reconstruction. The same day in Brussels, ambassadors from NATO countries and Ukraine held talks over Russia's firing of an experimental hypersonic intermediate-range missile. Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lammy announced his country's biggest sanctions package yet against Russia's fleet used to export and oil embargoes to fund its war against Ukraine. Tensions in the Asia-Pacific are also on the G7 agenda. Italy invited foreign ministers from South Korea, India, Indonesia and the Philippines. The G7 ministers are also expected to discuss the crises in Haiti and Sudan, as well as political tensions in Venezuela. Several countries have said they would comply with the ICC warrants and arrest Netanyahu should he enter their territory, while others are still considering the response.
Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, His Excellency Ambassador Medhat Meleegy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening to you.
Well, Your Excellency, we were speaking now about the group of 7 democracies are seeking a common position on the arrest warrant of Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued last week by the International Criminal Court. How did you follow this?
Well, actually, I think the most important thing is that now we have the highest juridical body talking about real war crimes committed by the Prime Minister of Israel and his Defense Minister. And I think, regardless of the respect that should be upon all countries regarding this warrant, but the most important thing is the recognition of the international community represented here by the ICC about the Israeli responsibility towards the civilian Palestinian population.
Yes.
And I think this is for the first time we have this body. No country can deny that there is a factual crime committed by the Israeli forces. And let's be honest here about one important point. Although that the warrant is issued against the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, and his former defense minister, but this actually implicates the whole Israeli government about the war crimes that were committed in Gaza. It's the responsibility, of course, of the Prime Minister since he is the head of the government, but this does not deny that all other bodies and individuals on a later stage are implicated in this. And I think this is the most important point that we reached by the ICC warrant.
Yes, of course. So you mean, Your Excellency, Ambassador Meleegy, that even if the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, was not arrested, still he is accused of war crimes?
Of course, and I think that the same way that the United States and other Western countries have welcomed the warrant that were issued against Mr. Putin, and before that even the former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, I think they should praise the same way the ICC about the warrant issued against Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gallant, or they will be officially accused of double standards. It's either they respect the court or they do not respect the court. They cannot be selective about the warrants issued by this court.
Yes,
and this is the most important thing.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Meleegy, now we have an information or news that the channel 12 of the Israeli television have announced that there would be a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon that is going to start on the accord is going to start on Wednesday. How did you follow this also?
Well, actually, I've been reading the reports. There is nothing clear yet, nothing officially clear. We heard so many reports about that Israel have recognized that the necessity of reaching a ceasefire in Lebanon, and that the Prime Minister Netanyahu himself has announced that the Security Cabinet has approved the ceasefire in Lebanon, and of course he explained the reasons for this. I think that the most important thing about this agreement, if it really will take place, because I mean, I will believe it when I see it, actually.
Yes.
But I mean, the most important things are that first, that this means that Israel has ended the continuous raids on Israel. We've seen the last 48 hours and how they intensify the raids in order to reach better agreement with the ceasefire on the Lebanese. But the most important thing is that they are going to have more time and more troops to be directed to Palestine once this will reach, when they reach an official agreement. Second, that Israel has reached the goals that it wanted to achieve in Lebanon, which is actually the retreat of Hezbollah above and northern of the Litani River on one side, and that all the security, Lebanese official security forces will be the one in control of the borders. And here there is a very important issue, I think, that maybe not many observers have mentioned, which is the last point mentioned by Mr. Netanyahu, which is that the United States will work to promote indirect negotiations between Israel and Lebanon to reach a recognized land border.
Yes.
I think this is very important. We've been suffering with Israel because it doesn't want to recognize official borders.
Yes.
Where is the official borders of Israel? Nobody knows, not even the Israeli politicians, because they believe that any land they can reach can be part of their final borders.
Yes.
So if they will negotiate with the Lebanese their northern borders, that means that we can reach same agreement with other countries in order to put Israel in its side. We heard actually declarations from President-elect Trump that Israel borders are small and it needs to be enlarged and expanded.
Yes.
Which actually it's a declaration that totally violates the international law.
Yes.
However, we hope that this will not entail another Israeli expansion towards other Arab countries to annex more land to its current border.
Yes, Your Excellency Ambassador Meleegy, also today Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati was speaking before the G7 meeting in Italy, and he said that there is an urgent need for an immediate ceasefire, whether in Lebanon or Gaza, and also the importance of the entry of the humanitarian aid to Gaza without obstacles by the Israeli side. How did you follow his statements?
Well, actually, he is reiterating the Egyptian position that were even said by His Excellency, the President of the Republic himself, about the necessity to cease fire on the Palestinian front and to remove any obstacle towards the humanitarian aid that should be entered in all parts of Gaza. I mean, I do not want to exclude any part, whether the northern part or the southern part. All Gaza should receive humanitarian aid for the civilian population.
Yes.
However, I believe that Israel will not stop before it can retrieve its hostages, whether by force or by pressure, as it wants to do. And actually, we have to admit that if we reach a serious ceasefire concerning the Lebanese front, that will ease the task on the IDF to intensify its aid on the Palestinian land in order to force the Hamas leaders to release the hostages as soon as possible. And
yes.
This will constitute a big victory for the Israeli government that is suffering from many hits so far, and the whole public in Israel is waiting for its exit to elect a new government.
Yes, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information. Your Excellency Ambassador Medhat Meleegy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. I really had the pleasure and honor to have this phone with you. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break and I'm going to be back with you. Welcome back. U.S. President Joe Biden had a message for Americans at his final Thanksgiving turkey pardon ceremony on Monday before Donald Trump returns to the White House. Keep calm and gobble on. Biden have spared birds, Peach and Blossom, from ending up on the dinner table, and the quirky and time-honored tradition mocking the upcoming U.S. holiday. Details follow.
U.S. President Joe Biden kicked off his final holiday season at the White House on Tuesday by issuing the traditional reprieve to two turkeys who will bypass the Thanksgiving table to live out their days in southern Minnesota. Biden welcomed 2,500 guests to the South Lawn under sunny skies as he cracked jokes about the fates of Peach and Blossom and sounded wistful tones about the last weeks of his presidency after a half-century in Washington power circles. That's when power was transferred to Republican President-elect Donald Trump. Biden defeated 4 years ago and was battling again until he was pressured to bow out of the race amid concerns about his age and viability. Until Inauguration Day, the President and First Lady Jill Biden will continue a busy run of festivities that will double as their long goodbye. The White House, scheduled in December, is replete with holiday parties for various constituencies, from West Wing staff to members of the Congress and the White House press corps. Biden said the peach pie is one of his favorites. He said during remarks that were occasionally interrupted by Peach gobbling top of the table to Biden's right. Peach is making a last-minute plea, Biden said at one point, drawing laughter from an overflow crowd that included cabinet members, White House staff, and their families and students from 4-H programs and Future Farmers of America's chapters. Biden introduced Peach as a bird who lives by the motto "Keep calm and gobble." On Blossom, the president said he was a different motto: no foul play, just Minnesota nice.
Well, Russia said on Tuesday it was preparing a response to Ukraine's latest attacks on its territory using U.S.-supplied ATACMS missiles, accusing Ukraine of firing on an airfield and military installation in its western Kursk region. Russia's defense ministry said that retaliatory actions were being prepared. The ministry said the strikes on November 23rd and 25th targeted military installations and an airfield in Russia's western Kursk region. Meanwhile, Ukraine struck a bus in the Russian-occupied town of Nova Kakhovka, killing 4 people and wounding at least 7 others. Russia expelled the British diplomat for alleged spying on Tuesday in the latest blow to the already dear state of relations between the two countries. The FSB security service said that the diplomat had intentionally provided false information when he entered the country. A Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman said the ministry had summoned the British ambassador and a step that host governments often use to express a strong protest. According to FSB, the British diplomat was a replacement for one of 6 UK diplomats expelled earlier this year, also on espionage charges. Russia said the Ukraine fired British Storm Shadow cruise missiles at its territory last week for the first time. Britain has joined successive waves of sanctions against Russia and provided arms to Ukraine. Pakistani protesters demanding the release of ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan on Tuesday killed 4 members of the nation's security forces as the crowds defied police and closed in on the capital center. More than 10,000 protesters armed with sticks and slide shots took on police in central Islamabad, less than 3 kilometers from the government enclave they aim to occupy. The Pakistani Interior Minister said miscreants involved in the march had killed 4 members of paramilitary rangers force on a city highway and leading towards the government sector. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said the men had been run over by a vehicle. And now with the economy news, as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a meeting with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and the Governor of the Central Bank of Egypt, Hassan Abdullah. President al-Sisi was briefed on the economic growth indicators and positive indicators of the banking sector, monetary policy and the exchange rate. The meeting also reviewed the central bank's policies for facing inflation as well as the state's efforts to increase the foreign currency reserves. The President gave directives to continue providing necessary requirements of production and industry in the sectors of top priority, which contributes to boost the comprehensive economic progress in Egypt. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli on Monday have stressed that the state supports to the International Manufacturing Conference and exhibition is based on its role in activating a partnership both on Arab and African levels. The Premier's statements came during the inauguration of the 3rd International Manufacturing Conference and exhibition, where he said the sponsorship of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to the annual conference comes out of the state's interest in raising the industrial sector and enhancing its role in attracting investments and achieving sustainable economic development. The 3-day conference and exhibition is organized by the Egyptian Industries Federation at El Manara Center for Conferences and International Fairs in Cairo. The Ministry of Industry will be also holding an exhibition with the aim of networking local and international manufacturers. Minister of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation Rania Al-Mashat on Monday said that Egypt's national vision aims at enhancing the economic participation of the private sector through building strong international and regional partnership. The details in the following report.
Minister of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation Rania Al-Mashat witnessed the signing a $150 million concessional development financing agreement between the International Finance Corporation and the Commercial International Bank (CIB). The agreement aims to support CIB in promoting the growth of micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, including women-led MSMEs. Al-Mashat highlighted the long-standing and effective partnership between the Egyptian government and the International Finance Corporation (IFC), which has played a pivotal role in advancing Egypt's sustainable development efforts. She emphasized that MSMEs are the backbone of the Egyptian economy, providing employment for millions, driving innovation and addressing critical funding challenges, particularly for women-led enterprises. She described the agreement as a significant step towards bridging the financing gap, ensuring these enterprises receive necessary support to grow, thrive and contribute to achieving Egypt's Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). The minister reiterated the ministry's commitment to empowering MSMEs, recognizing their critical role in job creation and GDP growth. She also referenced the Prime Minister's initiative to establish a ministerial group for entrepreneurship led by the Ministry of Planning, with the goal of improving the business environment for startups and entrepreneurial ventures. The ultimate objective, she noted, is to accelerate economic growth by fostering a competitive, knowledge-based economy capable of providing decent jobs for youth and future generations. Al-Mashat further highlighted Egypt's progress in empowering women, becoming the first country in the region to launch a national strategy for women's empowerment aligned with the United Nations SDGs. She also mentioned the launch of the Closing the Gender Gap Accelerator platform, a collaborative initiative between the public and private sectors to achieve gender equality.
Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening, how are you?
How are you, sir? Well, Your Excellency, the Minister of Planning and Economic Development and International Cooperation, Rania Al-Mashat, have said that Egypt's national vision aims at enhancing the economic partnership of the private sector through building strong international and regional partnership. How did you follow these statements in light of the role played by the private sector in Egypt in the economy?
This is very important, and I am always following such a sort of activities because it is one of our choices. What do we want for our economy? A sort of a state-led economy or a market economy? And of course we are voting for the market economy, and that's why we are inviting our private sector to come and to invest and widening even their investment. But I want to be frank to you and to our audience that our local investment is not enough to cover all our needs. That's why we are inviting our brothers in the Arab world to come and to invest, because I feel shame that the Arab world is investing abroad by $1,800 billion, while inside the Arab world we are investing by $60 billion, less than 5%. If this is because they don't want us or they hate us, no. It is our ability how to attract foreign direct investment. And we need this for the Arabs. We need this also for our partners in Europe, which is a very important partner. Even America
lately we are inviting China and India to come to invest in our Suez Canal zone. This, we need to start a sort of campaign to explain to our countrymen that this is very important, and to do whatever it takes to encourage foreign direct investment to come and invest in our country. Even Egyptians in our country. And I am just coming from a meeting with a wide range of Egyptian businessmen and some foreign businessmen, and I was explaining this point. It is very important to make the life of an investor in our country much more easier than it's going on now. We are suffering from a huge bureaucracy, and we have to make it easier. You spend a lot of time without any reason using our infrastructure, using the banking system is still living in 100 years ago. Of course it's ameliorating, but not enough. Our banking system is not working according to the international levels of competition. So the investor is coming here and he's measuring the time he's wasting since he put the first $1 million until he gets the first $1,000 as revenue. And the banking system is not encouraging enough such an activity. Also the government bureaucracy, we have to make it much easier. You have to decide many things. You realize that in the social media, they are not happy because we are selling the land, as if the one who is buying the land will take it with him back home. Many things should have a sort of very wide campaign to explain to the layman in Egypt that we need this to face our ambitious goals to cover 28 million children we have gave birth in the last 10 years. This is something huge, and we have to cover all these needs. But on the other side, thank God that Egypt is much, much better than any country around us.
Yes, thank God. Yes, I
No.
thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information. Your Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, I really had the honor to have this phone with you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have this urgent news that U.S. President Joe Biden have said is now in a press conference that more than 70,000 Israelis had to leave their homes after Hezbollah's attacks on northern Israel. Well, we continue our program and we continue our economy news. Egypt's stock market indices have collectively risen in the trading session on Tuesday after high rate of profit-making sales by investors. So the benchmark EGX 30 index gained 0.5% to close at 28,435 points. EGX 70 index for small and medium businesses also gain 0.46% to close at 8363.94, and the border EGX 100 index also gain by 0.23%. Meanwhile, the market capitalization reached 135.48 billion pounds to close at 2,226 billion pounds. While the European Union on Tuesday have endorsed France's belt tightening draft budget for 2025 at the center of a political standoff that is threatening to topple the government in Paris. The details on the following report.
The European Union on Tuesday endorsed France's belt-tightening draft budget for 2025 at the center of a political standoff that is threatening to topple the government in Paris. The backing from Brussels could provide a fillip for embattled French Prime Minister Michel Barnier as he struggles to get his economic plan past opposition from the political extremes. The EU has already rebuked France for breaking budget rules, placing the country under formal procedure in July because its deficit was above the 3% level that Eurozone members are supposed to adhere to. After talks with Brussels, the government put forward a budget aimed at narrowing the gap with 60 billion euros worth of spending cuts and tax increases. Amid the tensions, the European Commission published its regular evaluation of the budget plans for the bloc's member states. The EU's executive said the push to cut the deficit to 5% of GDP next year from 6.2% in 2024 before returning to 2.8% in 2029 put France on a credible fiscal path. The country's budget for 2025 was assessed as being in line with EU recommendations. Since the summer, France has been part of a group of 8 countries facing the EU's executive deficit procedure, with Belgium, Hungary, Italy, Malta, Poland, Romania and Slovakia. The European Commission warned Tuesday that Austria, whose deficit is expected at 3.6% this year, could join them.
Welcome back now with the sports news as Liverpool Mohamed Salah says he is more out than in at the Premier League leaders with still no offer of a new contract on the table. Details follow.
Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah says he is disappointed by the club's failure to offer him a new contract and looks more likely to leave than stay. The 32-year-old Liverpool's top scorer this season with 12 goals in all competitions is out of contract at the end of the season. Salah scored twice in the 3-2 win against Southampton on Sunday, including the winner from the penalty stop to take the Liverpool 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Liverpool have not commented on Salah's remarks. A club source said that the contract between Liverpool and Salah's agent Rami Abbas Isa is ongoing and has been positive. Only Manchester City forward Erling Haaland has scored more Premier League goals than Salah this season, with the Egyptian netting 10 times in the top flight. Salah's goals and assists have been worth 17 points to Liverpool this season, the most of any player in the division. Salah signed a 3-year contract extension with the club in 2022, with that deal set to expire in summer. Defender Trent Alexander-Arnold and club captain Virgil van Dijk are out of contract at the same time as Salah. Liverpool rejected a £150 million offer from Saudi Arabian club Al-Ittihad in September 2023, and multiple sources have said that Saudi Arabia Public Investment Funds remains interested in bringing Salah to Saudi Arabia Pro League. Following a 3-0 win against Manchester United in September, Salah said he treated the game as if it was the last time he would play at Old Trafford.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of this episode. My name is Amal Mukhtar. Thank you for watching.